30% of the American public have a great deal or fair amount of trust in the American mass media. There was a day, Rev, it was about 64%. Then it goes to 57%. Then it goes to 44%. Stays at about 44% for nearly 20 years. It's between 47 and 44% for about 20 years. And then it begins to turn. And you know when it begins to turn? If you want to really think about who has had the biggest effect on the mass media politically, the politically people that report on the world of American politics, it really goes to Barack Obama.
Really?
It really starts at about 2008. And what it's saying is that, okay, we've kept all these presidents in check. You tell us that's your role. You continually and perpetually tell us that we have a responsibility via the First Amendment to keep presidents in check. And you did that. You did that with LBJ. You did that with Nixon. You did that with Kennedy before that. You did that with, Carter and Reagan and all these presidents, Ford. I mean, you've always, Clinton, you've always held these presidents in check until we got to Barack Obama. And you gave him a pass. You absolutely gave him a pass. I went back and looked through some Gallup numbers over the weekend. About 23% of all the coverage of Barack Obama was negative. Most presidents were around 65%. In other words, Clinton, 65% negative news coverage. Bush, about 69 to 70%. But all those presidents were somewhere in the 65 to 70% negative coverage. That's why most presidents don't like the media. I mean, most presidents, I went back to look at quotes, presidents always believe the media's out to get them. I mean, the media's out to get them. The media's out to get them. LBJ believed that. Nixon believed that. Kennedy believed that. Ford believed that. Carter believed that. Reagan believed that. H.W., Clinton, W., all of them believed that. And all of them, I guess, to some degree, had a reason to believe that because about 65 out of 100 reportings of what they were doing in their administration were negative in nature. And then comes Obama. And the number goes from somewhere in the 60s to somewhere in the mid-20s. Now, either he was the most amazing and positive and uplifting president in the history of this country, or the media gave him a pass. I'll let you decide that. I'm not trying to argue whether or not 23 or 25 or 27% is the right number to negatively report on what Barack Obama did. And then you got Trump. 91% of all news coverage relating to Donald Trump reported on by the mass media is negative. So when you got a kind of an average, a rolling average of several decades in the 60s, and then you fall off a cliff to 23, and then you take off like a rocket ship to 91, do you believe we're that stupid?
That could tend to damage your credibility.
I mean, they have no credibility, Rev, and Trump didn't do this. I mean, that's what I find unbelievable. Chuck Todd, Trump is waging war against the American media. No, you're so full of yourself that you believe we're that stupid. You believe we can't see through what you're doing on CNN? Do you honestly believe, Chuck Todd, that most of us don't clearly understand exactly what you guys are up to on NBC? Newsflash, we're not rocket scientists, but we're not morons and idiots either. You've got to be ridiculously naive and stupid to believe that the media is not out to get Donald Trump. And look, these are personal opinions of mine, supported by what? Facts and data. Once again, today in America, per Gallup, 29% of the American public have either a great deal or a fair amount. They threw that fair amount in there because they knew the number of people who have a great deal of trust in the American media probably be less than 10%. It's probably somewhere around 10%. And if you don't believe the media is biased, let's go to this number. This is the most interesting number in political media today, per Gallup, not some radio show host from the PD with a loud mouth and a bunch of opinions and doesn't have anything to talk about on Monday mornings. 51% of Democrats have a great deal, a fair amount of trust in the American political media. 30% of independents do, and 14% of Republicans do. That's the only number I need to know. 51% of Democrat-leaning voters in America believe the media is fair. They're the only group of people in America. The independents don't. Only 30% of independents do. Only 14% of Republicans do. The Democrats in America today are the only subset of voters who believe the media is fair. Why? Because they're on the same team. Obviously, they believe it's fair because they're getting a more than their fair share, more than a fair shake. So when you use the word fair and you look at the percentage of people, once again, these are two categories. Do you have a great deal of trust in the American political media? No. Do you have a fair amount of trust? Yeah, I guess I have a fair amount of trust. Okay. That's the only number that matters. Think of this. 14 out of 100 Republicans, 30 out of 100 independents, and 51 out of 100 Democrats believe the media is fair. And it's unbelievable to me how the Chuck Todds of the world, the Jake Tappers of the world, here's all I want to say. I wrote down two names or two towns. I'm watching Stephanopoulos yesterday. I think it's Stephanopoulos. May have been Todd. May have been Meet the Press. I'm flipping back and forth. And Stephanopoulos comes on an hour later than Meet the Press. Chris Wallace has his show. CNN has State of the Union. I'm back and forth. Kind of. And I'm thinking about they're having a debate about the complexities of Trump and Trump's waging a war on the media. And Brian Stetler saying it's hate crimes, and Chuck Todd saying never before. I mean, we're at war. I mean, the First Amendment is under assault. Freedom of press has always been an important ingredient in the American democracy. And this guy's he's trying to transform the country into something that all of us should be ashamed of. And I look at the two people that they're having as their guest to offer up opinions back and forth about the state of the media, the state of the American political media, and its reporting, its accuracy in reporting, its viability, its sustainability, its relevancy. I mean, we're having a real sophisticated, I'm going to Thigpen's word here, a real sophisticated conversation about the state of the media and how do we deal with Donald Trump. One of the guests was in Nantucket, and the other was in Southampton, New York. How tone deaf are you? How unbelievably ignorant are you? And more importantly, how ignorant do you think we are? Do you really believe a person sitting in a beach home in Nantucket and somebody in an oceanfront home in Southampton, I mean, do you really believe that they have any understanding whatsoever of the dynamic you're dealing with? It should have been somebody, hey, we're going to talk to Joe from Peoria, Illinois, and we're going to talk to Sam from Dothan, Alabama, and we're going to talk to Ralph from, Edensburg, Iowa. No, they went to their likely suspects. They went to Nantucket and Southampton and found experts, sophisticates, who understand this nuanced debate between the president and the media. Well, I mean, if you're somebody, if you're a sophisticate from Southampton, I doubt very seriously you have a strong opinion about Donald Trump and the group of people who ushered his presidency into place. If you have a beach home in Nantucket, it's highly unlikely you support this American president. I just found it odd. I mean, how tone deaf can they be? How self-absorbed are they? How lacking of self-evaluation and introspection Chuck Todd when he rails against, Trump impugning the First Amendment and democracy's at stake. And he's a threat to the country. We have a job to do. We're responsible for holding presidents accountable. That's what the American media's always been there for. Well, 10 years ago, you decided to take a pass. You did it with LBJ. You did it with Kennedy. You did it with Nixon. You did it with Reagan. You did it with Clinton. You did it with both Bushes. And history shows that you treated all of those candidates not in exactly the same way, but in somewhat the same way. And along came Obama. And remember what Chris Matthews said? He had the tingling sensation up his leg, and you stopped being news people, and you became propagandists. And you propagandized for a very liberal agenda that in your heart you know you believe in. And you couldn't set that personal persuasion or personal disposition aside and be fair and report negatively when he said, keep your doctor, like your doctor, keep your doctor. We're going to save you $2,500 a month. The average American family is going to save $2,500, a year on a health insurance policy. Blatant untruths. But you didn't report on it. And I guess you're trying to make up and catch up because you went from 23% negative reporting on Barack Obama to 91% negative reporting on this president. And all I'll say is this. We aren't that stupid. We've never been that stupid. And as long as you continue to believe we're that stupid, as long as you refuse to self-evaluate and become a bit introspective about the job you're doing, your approval ratings, the trustworthiness we have in the American political media will continue to be somewhere around 25 to 30%, which is horrible. You should be ashamed to be a member of the American political media professing to daily do your job when only about 1 in 4 Americans have a great deal or fair amount of trust in what you do. Let's take a break. Back after the break. Takes Mondays to make Fridays. Good morning, PD Live 95.